Hello and a warm welcome to the latest edition of Forever Blues. My name's Neil Moxley, my co-host is Colin Tatton. This is your podcast for all things Birmingham City. And before we get underway, as per usual, our grateful thanks to Davies Law for sponsoring this podcast. Right, we're going to take a quick look back at the events at the Riverside on Saturday before we move on to more meatier subjects. Obviously a 2-1 defeat for the Blues, Cole. What were your big takeaways from the game at the Riverside?
I think overall it's just slightly disappointing going into the international break, wasn't it, on the back of a defeat after the 4-0 back-to-back games at St Andrews. Even if Blues had got a point, you'd been a bit more satisfied if you want, really. It wasn't a bad performance. A couple of goals that probably avoidable. Middlesbrough could have said that Blues' goal was probably avoidable from their standpoint. And it was a fairly similar refrain, wasn't it, in terms of an away game, lots of possession and a lot of the ball and dominance. And this time, there was a few chances created, but it just wouldn't go for Blues again. And that's what 5 defeats on the road. It's something that I'm sure we'll talk about, that obviously they've got to sort of right a little bit. But yeah. The performance was good, and I don't think anyone's thinking going into this period of a few days rest and recuperation that all hope is lost, because it isn't. Because up to this point, Blues have done okay, satisfactory, and there are signs to be positive about.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at Dan Middlesbrough's team sheet, and I thought to myself it was a pretty strong one, all things considered. We've obviously got the local lads, Hayden Hackney and Dale Fry. Well, I quite like both of them. I think that Fry in particular has been a bit of an underrated talent. They're now second in the league, having beaten us. But I do think that the circumstances of the day, whether or not Steve Gibson, the owner, engineered them, maybe not. But I think there was definitely thought that went behind the releasing of the statement 2 hours beforehand, because it absolutely had an effect on the game. I know Chris Davies said in his pre-match build-up it won't have an effect. It absolutely did. And that gave them something to hold on to in that second half. And, they were determined to sort of stick 2 fingers up to Rob Edwards and sort of say, look, we'll be okay with you, Rob. Thanks for nothing, pal. And off they went. And I think, had it been any other Saturday without that narrative behind it, would they have defended with, the zeal with which they did? Would they have been on the back foot for as long as they were? Would they have given Blues more of a chance to attack them in the second half and instead of funneling back? I think the answer to those questions is probably yes, to be honest with you. The worrying thing for me in particular is that there seems to be a slight new narrative developing, in as much as 2 things really. We keep talking about the goals being a bit soft again, and they were. And the other thing really as well is that the Blues keep conceding the first goal away from home. 7 now out of 8 fixtures away from home, and we've conceded the first goal in all but 1, and it's leaving us on the back foot, and it's leaving the side with a lot to do.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, that. Apart from the Blackburn Rovers game, which was a pretty crazy finish all told, it will make a difference, wouldn't it, if Blues could edge ahead away from home, because then that puts the onus onto the home side in front of their own crowd. Obviously, they're going to be edgy. It's an interesting point. Blues have always had to make the running. And in fairness, that they have, for large parts of away games, they have dominated the opposition, but without getting that reward in terms of the gold standard, sticking the ball in the back of the net. Just touching back on the Rob Edwards scenario, I think you're absolutely spot on there, that a couple of hours before the kick-off, Middlesbrough announcing, that he's not going to be in the dugout, this is why, definitely gave, it sort of increased the ire of the fans, I think. And like you said, and there's probably a bit extra spice with, a lot of blokes there, probably don't like the housewife's choice, Rob Edwards, do they,
Yeah.
So, but like you said, there was definitely something there for them to hold on to, and it was like they just did not want to lose, almost to prove a point to the departing head coach. I think that is a really. I thought before the game this is set up for Blues. There's a bit of turmoil. It's a bit uncertainty here, this, that, the other. But I think you're right. They took ownership of it almost.
Yes.
And
they wrestled the narrative back in the day,
and turned it round on its head, and so it made it a little bit more problematic than it may have been for Blues. But again, there were chances, and on another day, their winning goal, it was a clever, instinctive flick by Hackney, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But again, that the shot was not going to trouble James Beadle otherwise.
No.
So. And then again, I mean, Kesh Anderson's magnificent cross into that danger area, and Iwata and Kyogo, just neither one was in the right position to connect it cleanly. So it just wasn't a bounce of the ball type afternoon either for Blues. But I think Chris Davies said afterwards, didn't he, that it was better in comparison to Bristol City, where Blues had, all the possession and no punches, as the phrase that we say. They were more creative, there were more shots, and the Jay Stansfield one just after the break, he was sort of caught in two minds when he was bearing down on goal on the left, wasn't he? I think he was looking to Marvin Dutch maybe in the area, but there's just a bit of a lack of conviction there, which is unusual with his end product shot. So, yeah, not the end of the world, but it was just a tad disappointing not to get at least a point from the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the fixtures, and now we've played Stoke away, up there, Coventry away, top, Middlesbrough away, up there, Preston away, up there. So we've not been paying, these haven't been by any stretches of the imagination, the deadbeats and losing to them. So there is, a bit of hope there. And I think there's been hope in all of the, in a lot of the performances. And interestingly, the one where we did go ahead at Preston, we managed to see it out, albeit it was a fairly backs to the wall, a lot to apologise to Paul Heckingbottom for defending so resiliently and for the club defending so resiliently and annoying him. Which was a bit of I thought it was a bit salty, to be perfectly honest with you, that reaction. But it just goes to show really that there is a bit of hope there. But I just, you look at the narrative again, you look at the broader picture, and then there needs to be, last season was predicated pretty much on Blues, being tight at home, going a goal up, and then dictating the play from there. They're not giving themselves a chance away from home to do that. And I think with Marvin Dux in the team, and coming to the fore, I thought he looked tired, Carl. Do you agree with that one?
Yeah, I do. And I think you can understand the manager picking the same team. I don't think anyone would have sort of quibbled with that.
No.
But again, he's not had a lot of football, so it's possibly always going to happen in that respect, wasn't it? And the other sort of big issue of the first minute, Paik Seung-ho looks like he dislocated his shoulder. Obviously, he was in agony. That's not going to be good, because he was obviously in good form.
Yes,
as we know, he's obviously an integral player for the manager and the way he wants the team to play. And like I said, as we speak at the moment, we don't know the severity of it. But if you've done your shoulder, if it's on the good side of being bad, if that makes sense, you're looking at maybe 4 to 6 weeks, which is a really, really good best case scenario. But it might be longer. We don't know. But he will be a real miss, won't he?
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, I thought he was dovetailing more better with Tommy Doyle than he did with Iwata, actually. Particularly in those two home games when Doyle had come to the fore. I thought they struck up a pretty nice little relationship once they'd finally a little bit of confusion at the start of the Portsmouth game, but they sorted it out. And obviously with Iwata running right down from the right back channel in both of those games, it seemed to I thought it was a really good. I thought he was having he was playing some of the best football I'd seen him play, actually, Paik. I was surprised at how stridently Chris Davies came out before the game against Portsmouth and defended Paik. I mean, he was, absolutely unequivocal. There was no grey area. It was, Paik's a super player. Paik's one of mine. Paik's going to play. You lot just suck it up. I mean, that was basically the top and bottom of it.
He was quite scathing of the criticism.
Yes, he was.
Which is fairly unlike him. But he was, I think he used the words laughable.
Yeah.
At one stage, and going back to the Paik Doyle partnership, if you want to call it that. I think a lot of credit also goes to Iwata, how he's interpreted the right back role, because it's not our right back roles aren't traditional right back roles, are they? And
No.
him coming in field, inverting a little bit, and he's popping up on the front line and overlapping here. His interpretation of what the manager wants and going into midfield and helping overloads and so on and so forth, I think that has helped the midfield as well. So it's helped Tommy Doyle as well, and it's helped Blues, especially in those two home games. Whereas Laird and say Samuel, they tended to sort of stay far higher and wider, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's again, but that's a good string to Blues attacking bow, isn't it? But yeah, with Paik out, he will be a miss undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've got to say one of the pluses really has been, you know, sort of Chris Davies happening upon or using, you know, Iwata as a right back. He's an absolute warrior, that boy. He really is. You know, I think he embodies everything that's good about Birmingham City. And I actually think he's just some players are really good fits for football clubs. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he'll love this. But South was a really good fit for the club at the stage of his career that he was at. Do you know what I mean? Wholehearted player, absolute wind-up merchant, got around the pitch, set the tone, set the tempo. You could always rely on him for, you know.
I could play as well, you know, Mox. I could play as well.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
Even though he's not a Georgie.
No, it's Georgia.
Georgie or Geordie, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean 7 out of 10 again, Mox. What's the matter with you? Oh, honestly, Sam, it's one of them ones, wasn't it?
But I agree with you, he was, yeah.
You know, and he was a really good, and I just get the feeling that Iwata's, you know, cut from the same sort of cloth. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I've got my own thoughts on this, but I'm going to throw the question to you first. What do you think is the main difference now between we were going into, obviously, from going into the November international break as to going into the October international break? Do you think I got the feeling, the reason I say that, Col, is because I got the feeling that going into the international break in October, Chris Davies is still searching for his best formula. I think the picture's become a bit clearer now. Do you agree with that?
Definitely. I think there have been improvements, and like you said, he's probably searching to try to find what worked, what wasn't working, and just tinkering a little bit, tweaking things. But the base things in terms of play, I think he said it a lot, didn't he? Turn forward, play forward quicker. The team has done that, and they've been more clinical, obviously, by and large. Also, the Neumann factor, he's come in, I keep saying, just make it work, because there's two very good players there. Why can't it work? And then also, you know, getting people up to speed. Roberts, Dutch has come in, and it's a simulation of those new players, which we do, you know, forget. It's taken roughly a third of the season. They've had injury problems, and also, you know, he's been looking at what type of formation for what games do work. But definitely, I think Blues are going into this international break in much better condition than the previous one, and you would hope that they will only continue to grow, progress, and get stronger and better as we come out of it into the, you know, the Christmas and New Year period.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Davies at the start of the season said he wanted Blues to be competitive. Do you think they've proven that?
Definitely, and it's a league whereby, I'm not saying you know, it's not weak, but there's a lot of parity. And undoubtedly, let's not forget, Blues are a newly promoted team. They are competitive, and they're one of the better teams in the division. And I think there's scope to improve. And in some cases, with other teams, I don't think there is that upside. So definitely, that's what he said. And he said he wants to see if Blues can compete first and foremost back in the Championship, which definitely they have. So how far can they go then? How good can they become? I still think there is room for improvement. And you mentioned there about, you know, the teams that Blues have faced away from home, all the supposed top teams. I don't think there's anyone to really fear. And in the Coventry City result, they're going great. Everything's working for them. They've got that stability and momentum. They're scoring goals for fun. But I don't know. I'd like to see that game again without a sending off and an injury in the warm up and this, that, the other. There were certain circumstances. So I don't really think there's anything there to be feared. It's just getting consistency of performance and eking out those results. And as we mentioned at the start, you know, just improving on the away production.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to look at, I mean, perhaps this isn't really a question for now, but I'm going to throw it out. If you're looking for somewhere room for improvement in terms of actual signings in the January transfer window, where would you be looking?
Oh, that's a good question. I've thrown that one at me. I don't know.
have a bit. I do apologise.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because you have to take into account what Blues can and can't do in terms of those dreaded PSR initials. I think they'll probably have things in their mind, but maybe sort of strengthen down that sort of left-hand side for the old, depending on how Lee Buchanan's getting on, looking at sort of that sort of left-hand side again. But again, I think also they'll be mindful at the top end of the pitch, to sort of boost the firepower.
Yeah,
I think a lot in terms of that will be dictated to what happens in the run up to January, really, to see needs must and what injuries and again see how Paik Seung-ho is.
Yeah, I think if there is a chance and they can do it, they will.
I think you're right there. Yeah,
I think if they feel that if we've just got to push the bat out a little bit to try and get somebody over the line. I mean, my own personal view is I'd like to see someone with a bit of power, with a bit of pace and a bit of power sort of brought in, whether that's either down the flanks or as an alternative to Marvin Dukes. Lyndon Dykes has got his quality, and I'm not decrying those in any way, shape or form. But he's not as potentially as quick and as powerful. Maybe. I think we got another loan that we can have off Premier League clubs.
But not sure without checking. But obviously 5 in a matchday squad. That's the key to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that'd probably be my key area, because I think Buchanan, from what it looks like, he's going to make a return over the new year, and obviously they've got Jack Robinson who can fill in as well. Chris Davies did name check him and sort of said at the press conference on Thursday that contrite and knew what he'd done and all the rest of it, and he had no worries about him going forward. Obviously, mate, just switching the conversation slightly to one side. The other big news of the week was I know it was only a paper exercise in inverted commas, but was the actual confirmation of the ownership change, which brought to an end 14, 15 years worth of rule by a couple of Chinese entities and Far East involvement. I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on Knighthead taking over and confirming that.
Yeah, like you said, I think in some parts there was still a misconception, because they still had to buy the remaining 51% of the shares, that somehow that BSHL, or the Zoe Future Group as it's became known, had some sort of influence still, but they never did. As we know, the last 2 years it's been totally Knighthead, and this was always happening under the terms of the deal. But it is nice to sort of close that chapter, isn't it?
Yeah.
And ultimately there are no grey areas now. As I said, there's been no influence from the Far East for the last couple of years, as we've seen, obviously, in what's transpired on and off the pitch. But it's a lot of people will have you look back on those 14, 15 years and it's wow. Yeah. A whole lot of crazy.
Yeah.
Mixed in with some success. Let's not forget, under Carson Young, if you want to go back that far, you won a major trophy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then everything else that came after, as we know, yes. And here we are at this point whereby onwards and upwards, as the phrase is, but roller coaster, a whole lot of crazy. That's all I can say. Those 14, 15 years, that's what it was. And I was thinking the other day as well that there's a generation of fans who will have not known anything other than our ownership and a Hong Kong Stock Exchange listing and troubles, tribulations, and all sorts like that. So, look ahead to what could be coming. And I think, as we've touched upon before, it's nice to sort of square the circle a little bit. And then the next big thing is going to be the stadium design reveal on November 20th.
Yeah. I mean, what are you? I mean, for my part, first off, to get rid of the Chinese, you know, and you know, I do feel that were they West? Whether I'm trying to weigh up whether I can use the phrase well-meaning, because you know, contrary to public opinion, they did come in and there's a lot of money's been spent on Birmingham City in the last 14, 15 years. It wasn't as if you know, it's a little bit like the Chancery reign at Sheffield Wednesday to a certain extent. You know, the bloke has spent a lot of money propping the club up, but it's just been spent it was just spent in completely the wrong areas. So to completely tarnish the Chinese with the hierarchies, the variety of hierarchies that they work with you know, they were, you know, hopeless and whatever, and didn't care. I don't think they did care. I just think they were hopelessly misguided in the manner in which they spent their money, to be honest with you. That's my over. But in terms of obviously where we are now, it's like chalk and cheese. You know, it's just fantastic that somebody, and I've long wondered why, wouldn't take a punt on a club that bears the name of the second city in England and try and do something with it. Well, you know, praise be that Knighthead have come along, and you know, whatever happens, they're having a good go at doing something. So you know, you've got to give them a massive amount of credit for doing that, and hopefully, you know, as one chapter closes, we can look forward to a brighter future.
Yeah.
So just to switch the conversation again to the obviously the stadium unveiling. What are you? What I mean, it should be a cracking occasion. What are you hoping to see from the stadium? And
I don't know, because all you keep hearing and the vibes you keep getting, and the bits that the key figures at the club would drop out the open house, they're obviously excited and enthused by the design, and it's going to be something fairly radical but traditional, if that makes sense. But I think they want something iconic that will, not only people go, they will always know that is Birmingham City Football Club Stadium, but they'll also know that is Birmingham as well.
yeah,
So I don't know. I really don't know, Mox. I don't know. Is it going to be a giant scale model of the Spaghetti Junction? I don't know. I don't know.
no,
With a great big Garrison bar, you know, stuck on the side.
yeah.
I have no idea. That's why I think it's so exciting to see what it'll end up like.
Yeah, I mean, I want it. I don't, you know, this is purely personal preference here, but I you know, I mean, been to a few stadiums in my time. I'd like to have it some character. I'd like to see it with some character. I don't care what it is. I just want it to have something that it can call its own. I've been down to the best one I've been to is probably the Spurs new stadium, just pipping the Allianz Arena at Bayern Munich, where bizarrely I saw Gary Megson sitting in the press room after Bolton played them once. It's just one of the more surreal. Me looking at Megson and sort of saying, him going, "Oh no, it's mental, isn't it?" And we were like, "Yeah, it's a cavernous auditorium." So yeah, I mean, there was the Allianz Arena, which for, you know, people who don't know, it sort of lights up as red on Bayern Munich match days, and then I think it lights up blue for Munich 1860 on match days, and then if they have the German national team playing there, it's white, which is a really nice touch. So I'm just hoping that there's something. Yes, I'd like it to, you know, embrace. There should be a nod to our industrial heritage.
I think there will be, won't there? That seems to be the, you know, Stephen Knight's involvement. It
I
will reflect Birmingham and the heritage of the city and the people of the city. So
yeah, I would hope so, because he seems to have got a particularly good handle on it, doesn't he, Stephen Knight? So if he's had a hand in it, you'd hope that was, you know, that particular flavour was briefed to the architects when they were actually drawing it up. So yeah, I mean, it should be a fantastic occasion.
Mainly the biggest thing, obviously, as long as the hot water and the bogs works.
Yeah, we don't want any toilets like they were at the back of the Cop back in the day. Oh my Jesus! And like that kiosk, I don't know how that kiosk at the back of the Cop as well. I mean, I don't know how that, it was just awful.
Yeah, the rivers are rising.
Yeah.
Streaming down the.
No, let's not.
Streaming down the terraces.
Let's not go there.
No.
So yeah, it's all looking good. So yeah, I think that's about it for this edition of Forever Blues podcast. I hope you've enjoyed what you've heard. Please don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. We're not many now short of that 1,000 subscribers mark, and when we get there, we've got some free brews to give away. So that will be something we're looking forward to just this side of Christmas. So thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep right on.